We've had a nice long break, and now it's time to kind of tighten things up. You're late. Better sit down. We're closing out the book of Daniel. And Daniel was a very interesting book, wasn't it? Especially this last bit. These last two stories on this chapter are like, whoa, pretty interesting. I think that maybe those of you who have had exposure to the book of Daniel may have had sort of a more evangelical perspective on the book of Daniel. I mean, how many of us have like turned on the radio or been to, Bible conferences or read pamphlets about the role of Daniel in biblical end-time prophecy, and I'm sure you may have seen him mentioned that way, and especially in these chapters we're doing today, chapters 10, 11, 12. Are we doing 10? Yes. 10, 11, and 12, which are the last three chapters of the book of Daniel before the story of Susanna and Bela and the dragon, have been used to set dates. Date setting. The world is going to end in, whatever. In 2012, in December. No, that's the Mayan calendar, though. That's a different deal. So as my daughter said, maybe it just applies to the Mayans. Maybe the world will end for them. I don't know. But so I guess what I want to say to you, like all the other books of the Bible that have been used in this way, that yes, the Holy Spirit gives us the entirety of God's revelation as it's meant to be, here in the Scriptures. Of course, there's other forums of God's revelation through, of course, the magisterial teaching of the church and through sacred tradition. But it's the same story as I'm trying to convey to you the idea that it's a multi-layered deal. So that, yes, the book of Daniel applies more immediately to its immediate historical circumstances. But then it also telescopes ahead and gives us a preview of the abomination of desolation that happened when General Titus destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD, which was a form of abomination. Why? Because the temple was destroyed, right? And it also telescopes ahead to every other time in which there's been significant times of trials and tribulations for the people of God. And it telescopes and sort of slingshots us all the way to the end. So it's meant to have these multiple applications. It can't only be in for example, the book of Revelation is another example. It's not meant to have just one interpretation or one application. It's meant to be applied in many different forms. Okay? So that these chapters that we're talking about here in Daniel, yes, have more to do with the immediate historical circumstances having to do with the time of Daniel and the peril and the persecutions sustained by the chosen people, but it also has to do with what Jesus was predicting in the Olivet Discourse about the coming destruction of Jerusalem, the coming judgment of the people in generation, but it also has to do with every time in which we encounter the spirit of the Antichrist alive and well and at a theater near you, sort of having to do with us even today and having to do with the end of time. Okay? So that's hopefully a framework that we can set all the things that we learn about Daniel and also about just God's revelation in general. God is eternal. He's infinite. He's omnipotent. He cannot be limited just to one little frame just because that's all we can handle.